Hi guys, this is section 3.2. We are going to be solving equations today. So we're going to start with a warm-up with simpler equations, and then we're going to do a little bit more complicated ones. Hopefully these on the warm-up are stuff that looks familiar, that you spent some time working on last year. So we're just going to review it quickly, and then we're going to move on to a little bit more complicated ones. So if you remember, to solve for a variable, you have to start with something that's being added or subtracted and then work backwards from there. We cannot get rid of the 2/9 that is attached to the v until the very last thing. So if something is attached to your variable, it's the last thing that you move. So we're going to start by moving the 6 to the other side of the equal sign. So since the 6 is being subtracted, we have to do the opposite to move it. So the opposite of subtracting 6 is adding 6. So we're going to add 6 to both sides. It crosses out on the left, that's the point, and went away. And now we have 2/9 v equals 20, because 14 plus 6 is 20. Now, the only thing left is the 2/9. So the 2/9 is right now being multiplied by v. So the opposite of multiplying is going to be dividing, and we can just divide by the 2/9 all at one time. It's going to be easier if you have your calculators. So divide by 2/9, which leaves you with v equals. If you're using your calculator, you're just going to do 20 divided by 2, and then use your ABC button, and then 9, because it'll make a fraction, and you can just do it all at one time. So when you do 20 divided by 2/9, you get 90. And you're done. All right, for number 2, it's a little trickier, because if you look, this x minus 3 is all being divided by 7, the whole thing. So you have to clear the fraction before you are able to move the 3. So fraction, big fractions like this, that's division. So currently we are dividing by 7, so we have to do the opposite of that. So the opposite of dividing by 7 is multiplying by 7. So it clears it down here, that's the goal, and that just leaves you with the x minus 3, just drops down, equals -2 times 7 is -14. And then you're just left with a minus 3, so then all you have to do is add this 3 over to the other side, and then you get x equals -11. All right, last one. If you're looking, you see that the 9 is attached to the W, which means it's going to be the last thing that we're moving. So we have to move the 5 first. Now be careful, because just because there is a subtraction sign doesn't mean it goes with the 5. The 5 itself is positive. So to move the 5, you're going to subtract 5 because it's positive. You always have to look at the sign in front. Okay? So that gets rid of the 5s. Be careful, because now you are left with a negative 9w equals, and then 23 minus 5 is 18. Now w is being multiplied by -9, so you have to divide by -9. And then your answer is w equals -2. Hopefully it's all coming back to you slowly but surely, because we're going to keep solving today. We're just going to have variables on both sides, so it's going to be just a little bit more complicated, but the same processes. So you're going to have some blanks to fill in on this slide. So if you need to pause it, so then you can go ahead and fill them in, that's fine. But I'm just going to go through them quickly. So you have to combine and distribute to get rid of parentheses. That's the first thing. On each side of the equal sign, you're going to make sure they're both as simplified as possible, so get rid of all the parentheses. And then anything that you're solving for, all your variables, need to be moved to the same side of the equal sign. And then anything that doesn't has to be moved to the other side. And then the last step is always going to be to multiply or divide to get the variable by itself. Okay? So we got 6 examples here that we're going to go through together, and then you have 4 more examples down here you're going to finish. Okay, so if we're doing number 1 together, we do not see any parentheses, so you don't have to worry about that. However, if you look, we do have p's on both sides of the equal sign. So what we have to do is we have to move them to get them together, because if you can't solve for something if it's in multiple places, you need it all put together. Usually, people like to move the smaller. You could subtract 10p if you wanted to over here, and then that would just leave you with a negative. A lot of times people want to avoid the negatives, so they move the smaller of the two. So we're going to move this 8p. It's positive, so the way you move it is subtracting it. So we're going to subtract 8p over to the other side. This negative 2 drops down, and then you have 10 minus 8, which is a positive 2p, equals, this cancels, and you are left with a negative 1. Watch your signs. Okay, now you only have a p in one place, which is great because that you are partway there already, and now you just have to do what we did before. So I have to move this negative 2 first because it's further away from my variable. Since it's negative, we're going to add it over. Cancels, leaves you with a positive 2p equals, and then negative 1 plus 2 is 1. We're almost done, but not quite. Right now you have a 2 multiplying your p. The opposite of multiplying by 2 is dividing by 2. So we divide both sides by 2. And that leaves us with p equals. Now 1 is not evenly divisible by 2. I would prefer you just leave it as 1/2. You can put 0.5 if you want, but I'd rather the fraction than the decimal. And then you're done. All right, number 2 is a little bit more complicated because if you're looking, you see a bunch of parentheses and fractions and all sorts of stuff. So the first thing we want to do is we need to make sure each side of the equal sign is as simple as possible. So we're going to start by getting rid of the parentheses, so we're going to distribute this 4. So 4 times 2r is 8r, minus 4 times 8, which is 32. You can't combine 8r and 32 because one has a variable and one doesn't, so that side is as simple as possible. Equals. Over here you have to distribute a 1/7. 1/7 times 49, r is 7r, and drop the addition sign down, and 1/7 times 70 is just 10. It's the same thing as dividing by 7, so it's not that difficult. Not as scary as it looks. Okay, from here, you're going to put the r's in on the same side, okay? So again, we could move the 8 or the 7. 7 is smaller, so let's go ahead and move that. It is currently positive, so we're going to go ahead and subtract it over to move it. 8r minus 7r is just r, or 1r. You still have a minus 32 equals, and then over here, 10. And what you're going to do from here is you're going to add the 32 over to get the r by itself. So r is 42. And then you're done. Okay, number 3. We're going to start by distributing to get rid of the parentheses. So 2 times g is 2g. 2 times 5 is 10. And the 22 over there is already simplified. There's nothing to combine, so we can start moving things. If you notice here, we don't have g's in multiple places. We only have g right here, so we can just start solving. So we're going to start by subtracting the 10. So that leaves us with 2g equals 22 minus 10, which is 12. Then g is currently being multiplied by 2, so we have to divide by 2, which leaves us with g equals 6. Oh. And then you're done. All right, couple more. Number 4. There are no parentheses, so you don't have to worry about that. We just have variables in multiple places, so we're going to go ahead and put those together. I'm going to move the 2. Be careful, the 2 itself is positive, so to move it, you have to subtract it. And then 5D minus 2D is 3D. You get rid of them here, and be careful, that is a negative 18. Now, all that's happening is that D is being multiplied by 3, so you just have to divide by 3, and you get that D is negative 6. Number 5, no parentheses, which is great, but you do see Z's in multiple places, okay? Since this side, the right-hand side of the equal sign, only has Z's, it doesn't have any extra stuff, it's going to be easiest for us to move all the Z's over there. So I'm going to move this negative 6Z. Since it is negative, you're going to add it over. Which gets rid of it. On the left, leaves you with a positive 13 equals, and then 7Z plus 6Z is 13Z. And then it's being multiplied by 13, so you need to divide both sides by 13. So Z is just 1. Last one. All right, no parentheses, but you do see your variable on both sides. So you could move the 20 or the 5. Probably a little simpler to move the 5. It's currently positive, so we're going to subtract it over. 20C minus 5C is 15C. You drop the plus 5. These 5's are gone, and you're left with a positive 65 on the right. Now you got to move this 5 by subtracting it because you start further away from your variable. So you have a 15C equals 60, because 65 minus 5 is 60. And then the last step is just going to be to divide by 15, which just gives you that C is 4. Again, it might be easier for you to just work through some of these on your own and then watch the video, or just skip through and check the answers. I'm okay with whatever works for you. If you know what you're doing and you don't want to listen to me, or it's too hard to listen and write at the same time, you're going to have to find what works best for you. I just want to make sure you have it available to you if you need it in whatever capacity, okay? All right, 3 times the greatest. This is tricky. The greatest of 3 consecutive even integers exceeds twice the least by 38. What are the integers? So this kind of combines what we did a couple days ago when we were writing equations and what we're doing now. However, you have to write it first, and then we have to solve it. So 3 times the greatest of 3 consecutive even integers. This is the tough part. Once we get that figured out, it won't be bad. So consecutive means in a row. But even, so 3 consecutive even integers. So an example of that might be 6, 8, 10. Okay, those are 3 even integers in a row. 20, 22, 24. If you notice, they're all 2 apart. Okay, consecutive even integers would all be 2 apart. Unfortunately, if we have 3 numbers, we can't just say X, Y, and Z and call one X, call one Y, and call one Z. We can't do that because we can't solve for that when we have all different letters. We need them all done with one letter. So if we would say that the first one is X, the next even integer, we know for a fact is 2 away, so it would be X plus 2. The third one will be 2 more than this one even, okay? So not just X plus 2, but now we're at X plus 4, okay? So just as an example, if this one was 6, 6 plus 2 is 8, 6 plus 4 is 10. Okay, and that would give you 3 consecutive even integers. But we have to do that because we need them all represented with the same variable. So we had to be able to use x for all of them and write them down. So this one is the smallest. This one is the one in the middle. And this one is the largest. Okay, so we're going to use x for the smallest, x plus 2 for the middle, and then x plus 4 for the largest. So back to the words. It says 3 times the greatest. So my largest one was the x plus 4. So 3 times x plus 4. Make sure you put that x plus 4 in parentheses because that's all grouped together. That's all one thing. And we're multiplying it by 3. Exceeds twice the least by 38. Okay, so I'm just going to come over here and figure out what I know. So twice the least. 2 times the smallest. Well, my smallest is x, so 2x. And then this this left-hand side is 38 bigger, okay, because it exceeds this by 38. So what we're going to do is we have to take the smaller one, the 2x, and we have to add 38, and they are equal to each other then, okay? So 3 times the greatest exceeds 2 times the least by 38, so 2 times the smallest plus 38. And now we can solve it. So there's your equation. We see some parentheses, so we're going to go ahead and distribute to get rid of them. So that gives you 3x plus 12. And then over here you still have a 2x plus 38. You see x is in multiple places, so we'll go ahead and move the smaller one, which would be the 2x. So we're going to just subtract 2x from both sides. 3x minus 2x is x. And then over here, all that's left is the 38. And then we're going to go ahead, and all you have to do is subtract the 12. So x is 26. Now, I know you're going to roll your eyes at me, but we're not quite done. You always have to make sure you're actually answering the question. You can't just jump to conclusions and be like, okay, I'm done. I solved for x. Well, nothing about this question actually asked for x. We have to read the question, make sure we're answering it. It says, what are the integers? How many were we asked to find? We were asked to find 3, and so far I've only found 1. So then you're just going to write me a little sentence, because it was a word problem. So if I give you words, you give me words. So you say, the integers are. Now, if you look back at our little key up here, it tells us that our smallest one was x. So the integers are 26, and then they just get bigger from there. So plus 2 gives me 28, plus 2 more gives me 30. And then you're done. That was hard, but that was a challenging one just to kind of get your brains thinking. I'm not going to necessarily ask you to do one like that on your own, but just good to see it and to work through it a little bit. We're dusting the cobwebs off from so much time off. All right, what I want you to do is I want you to do these 4 on your own, if you can, okay? That last one's a little bit of a challenge, but try it. And then your worksheet is 3.2. And if you have any questions, just let me know. Bye.